Is your paycheck feeling lighter lately? Are you noticing that your grocery bills are creeping higher each week, and filling up your gas tank feels like a major financial decision? It's not just your imagination. The silent thief of purchasing power, inflation, is at work, and it's quietly impacting every aspect of your financial life. Understanding inflation isn't some abstract economic theory reserved for experts in ivory towers. It's the real-world force eroding the value of your hard-earned money, impacting your savings, your investments, and your ability to achieve your financial goals. Without a clear grasp of what inflation is, how it operates, and, crucially, what you can do about it, you're essentially navigating the financial seas without a compass. Imagine trying to plan for your dream vacation, save for a down payment on a house, or build a comfortable retirement when the very ground rules of your finances are shifting beneath your feet. That's the challenge inflation presents. But it's a challenge you can meet head-on. This guide is designed to be your essential toolkit for understanding and navigating this economic reality, specifically crafted for those just beginning their journey in personal finance and investing. Within this resource, we'll demystify the complexities of inflation, breaking down its fundamental concepts into clear, understandable terms. You'll learn about the root causes of inflation, its subtle yet powerful effects on your daily spending and long-term financial health, and the emotional anxieties that rising prices can understandably trigger. More importantly, you will gain access to practical, actionable strategies designed to not just cope with inflation, but to actively mitigate its impact on your savings and investments. Equip yourself with the knowledge to confidently manage your finances, make informed decisions, and secure your financial future, even in an environment of rising prices. Building upon the initial realization that your money isn't stretching as far as it used to, let's delve deeper into why this is happening, and more importantly, what you can do about it. That feeling of your wallet shrinking isn't a personal financial failing. It's a widespread economic phenomenon known as inflation. In today's economic climate, understanding inflation isn't just a nice-to-know piece of information. It's a financial imperative, especially as you embark on your personal finance and investment journey. Imagine you're building a sandcastle, your financial future. Inflation is like the tide coming in, slowly but steadily eroding the sand you've carefully placed. If you're unaware of the tide, your castle could be washed away before you realize it. Similarly, without understanding inflation, your savings and investments can lose their real value over time, hindering your ability to reach your financial aspirations, whether it's buying a home, retiring comfortably, or simply achieving financial security. This guide is designed to be your high-level map to navigate these rising tides. Before we equip you with the strategies to protect your financial sandcastle, we need to lay the groundwork. Think of this section as setting the stage. We'll introduce the fundamental building blocks you need to grasp the bigger picture of inflation. We'll touch upon the basic definition of inflation, the general increase in prices over time, and why it matters to you personally. We'll also briefly explore the common causes of inflation, such as increased demand or supply chain disruptions, without getting bogged down in complex economic jargon. Essentially, we're here to address a core need, to empower you to understand and manage the impact of inflation on your personal finances. By providing you with a solid foundation of knowledge, we aim to transform inflation from a confusing and anxiety-inducing concept into a manageable economic factor that you can confidently address within your overall financial strategy. Consider this introduction your starting point, a stepping stone to gaining control and building a more resilient financial future in the face of rising prices. Don't let inflation win. Ready to take decisive action? Subscribe now for essential strategies and insights to protect your finances from rising costs. Your voice in comments is key. Share your challenges, ask questions, join our community as we navigate and conquer inflation. Let's learn and thrive together. Building upon the understanding that inflation is eroding your purchasing power and making it harder to achieve your financial goals. Let's now delve into the specifics. Our goal here is to equip you with a solid foundational understanding of what inflation truly is and how it works in the real world. Think of this as learning the rules of the game before you start playing. First, let's define inflation more precisely. It's the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and consequently, purchasing power is falling. Imagine a basket of everyday items, groceries, gas, and clothing. Inflation means that over time, you'll need to spend more and more money to buy the same basket of goods. This isn't about the price of just one item going up. It's a widespread increase across the economy. What causes these widespread price increases? Two common culprits are often discussed. Demand pull inflation happens when there's more money chasing fewer goods. Think about it like this. If everyone suddenly wants the latest smartphone, but the factories can't produce them fast enough, the price of that phone will likely go up. Cost push inflation on the other hand, occurs when the costs of production for businesses increase. For example, if the price of oil rises dramatically, it becomes more expensive to transport goods, manufacture products, and even run businesses, and these increased costs are often passed on to consumers through higher prices. So, how does this actually impact your daily life? Consider your grocery bill. Have you noticed that the same items you used to buy for $50 now cost $60 or more? That's inflation at work. It affects everything from the price of your morning coffee to the cost of rent, utilities, and even entertainment. Understanding these fundamental concepts, what inflation is and what drives it, is the first crucial step in taking control of your finances in an inflationary environment. Moving forward, we'll explore the different types of inflation and, most importantly, how inflation specifically impacts your savings and investments. By the end of this section, you should have a clear grasp of the basic mechanics of inflation and be ready to understand its more nuanced effects on your financial life. We're building a roadmap, piece by piece, to empower you to navigate the complexities of inflation with confidence. Building on your commitment to take action and learn more, let's talk about why grasping inflation isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely essential, especially right now. You're likely feeling it already, whether you realize it or not. Look around. Prices are visibly climbing at the grocery store, at the gas pump, even online. This isn't just a fleeting moment. We are in a period where inflation is becoming a significant and persistent economic reality. Ignoring it is no longer an option if you want to safeguard your financial well-being. The pressing need to understand inflation stems from a fundamental shift in the economic landscape. For years, many people have been accustomed to a low inflation environment. Savings accounts seemed sufficient, and the impact of rising prices felt manageable. However, that landscape has changed rapidly. We're now facing a situation where inflation is not just a marginal concern. It's a central economic challenge that is actively eroding the value of your money at a faster pace than many have experienced in their adult lives. The key problem is this. Without a clear understanding of inflation, you are essentially financially unprepared for the current economic climate. You might be making financial decisions based on outdated assumptions that no longer hold true in an inflationary environment. This knowledge gap can lead to critical missteps in managing your savings, your investments, and your everyday spending, potentially jeopardizing your short-term financial stability and long-term financial goals. Consider the impact on your savings. If inflation is higher than the interest you're earning in a standard savings account, you're actually losing purchasing power, even if your account balance nominally increases. Think about your investment strategy. Are your investments positioned to weather inflationary pressures? Are you aware of asset classes that traditionally perform better during periods of rising prices? These are critical questions that demand informed answers that are only possible with a solid grasp of inflation. This urgency is why this guide isn't just timely, it's crucial. We're not just offering theoretical concepts. We're providing practical knowledge and strategies to address a very real and immediate financial challenge. The time to understand and act on inflation is not tomorrow, not next week. It's now. Let's equip you with the tools to navigate this economic reality and regain control of your financial future in this inflationary environment. You now understand the urgency of grasping inflation and the knowledge gap it creates. So, Let's start building your understanding with some foundational concepts. What exactly is inflation at its core? Simply put, inflation is the decline in the purchasing power of money over time. Think of it like this. If you could buy a week's worth of groceries for $100 last year, but this year, the same groceries cost you $110, that's inflation in action. Your $100 now buys less than it did before. But what drives this increase in prices? One key factor is demand pull inflation. Imagine everyone suddenly wants to buy the newest video game console. If demand far outstrips the supply of consoles available, retailers can raise prices because people are willing to pay more to get their hands on one. In the broader economy, if overall demand for goods and services increases faster than the economy's ability to produce them, prices tend to get pulled upwards. Another significant driver is cost-push inflation. This happens when the costs of production for businesses rise. Consider gasoline prices. If the price of crude oil, a key input for gasoline, increases significantly, it becomes more expensive for gas stations to buy and sell gasoline. These higher costs are often passed on to consumers at the pump, pushing up the price you pay for gas. Similarly, increases in wages or the cost of raw materials can contribute to cost-push inflation across various sectors of the economy. Now, how do we measure this inflation we're talking about? A common measure you'll often hear about is the Consumer Price Index, CPI. The CPI tracks the average change in prices paid by urban consumers for a basket of goods and services. Think of this basket as representing everyday expenses like housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and recreation. By monitoring how the prices of these goods and services change over time, economists can estimate the rate of inflation. For instance, if the CPI increases by 5% in a year, it means, on average, consumers are paying 5% more for the same basket of goods and services compared to the previous year. Rhetorical question: have you ever looked at your own spending over the past year? Have you noticed specific categories like groceries or gas where prices have noticeably increased? That's the impact of inflation in your personal budget. Understanding these fundamental concepts, demand pull and cost push inflation, and how inflation is measured, is crucial for navigating your financial journey in today's economic climate. We're now equipped to delve deeper into how inflation directly impacts your savings and investments, and more importantly, what you could do about it. Now that you have a grasp of what inflation is and its basic drivers, let's look at how it actually plays out in your personal finances and some common challenges you might encounter. Understanding these practical implications is key to taking effective action. Let's start with savings. Imagine you diligently save $1,000 in a regular savings account earning a very low interest rate, say 0. If inflation is running at 5% per year, the real value of your savings is actually decreasing. While you technically have $1,005 after a year, the purchasing power of that $1,005 is less than the $1,000 you started with because things have become more expensive. This is the silent erosion of your savings due to inflation. A major challenge here is recognizing that simply saving money in traditional low-yield accounts might not be enough to maintain your financial standing in an inflationary environment. A strategy to overcome this is to explore options that can potentially outpace inflation, such as carefully considered, low-risk investments, even for beginners. Consider your everyday spending. Think about your grocery budget. With cost-push inflation, the price of food can rise due to increased energy and transportation costs. Demand pull inflation can also play a role if, for instance, there's a surge in demand for certain food items or supply chain disruptions. The challenge here is that your fixed income might not stretch as far as it used to, making it harder to cover essential expenses. A practical strategy is to implement careful budgeting and expense tracking. Identify areas where you can cut back on non-essential spending or find more cost-effective alternatives. This might involve comparing prices at different stores, reducing dining out, or finding free or low-cost entertainment options. Finally, let's touch on investments. While inflation erodes the value of cash savings, certain investments can act as a potential hedge against inflation. For example, real assets like real estate and commodities have historically sometimes increased in value, during inflationary periods. Stocks, particularly those of companies with pricing power, can also potentially outpace inflation over the long term. However, a challenge for beginners is navigating the investment landscape and understanding which options are suitable for their risk tolerance and financial goals. A strategy to overcome this is to start with learning about the basics of diversified investing and potentially seeking advice from a qualified financial advisor, even for just initial guidance. The key takeaway is that understanding inflation's practical implications is the first step to proactively managing its effects on your finances. Building on the practical strategies of optimizing savings, budgeting, and initial investment considerations, let's explore some more nuanced approaches to not just weather inflation, but potentially thrive despite it. While basic savings accounts are eroded by inflation and diversified investments offer longer-term protection, there are more proactive steps beginners can consider to enhance their financial resilience. One advanced strategy is to actively seek out inflation-protected investments. For instance, in the U.S., Treasury inflation-protected securities, TIPS, are specifically designed to adjust their principal value with inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index. This means your investment's value aims to keep pace with rising prices, preserving your purchasing power. Another avenue is exploring real estate investment trusts, REITs, particularly those focused on sectors like residential or industrial real estate, as rents and property values often tend to rise with inflation. Furthermore, dividend-paying stocks, especially those of established companies with a history of increasing dividends, can provide a growing income stream that can help counteract inflation's impact on your living expenses. Let's consider a hypothetical example. Sarah, a beginner investor, understands that her savings are losing value due to 5% inflation. Instead of solely relying on a low-interest savings account, she decides to allocate a portion of her portfolio to TIPS and a low-cost REIT ETF, exchange-traded fund, after doing some basic research. She also starts investing in a diversified stock ETF that includes dividend-paying companies. While these investments carry risks and require careful consideration of her risk tolerance and financial goals, they offer her a strategy to potentially outpace inflation and protect her wealth more effectively than simply holding cash. This proactive approach, even at a beginner level, showcases how understanding inflation can lead to more sophisticated and resilient financial planning. The key is to move beyond simply reacting to rising prices and actively implement strategies that aim to mitigate inflation's impact on your financial future. To further emphasize the importance of proactively managing inflation, let's look at some real-world data and expert opinions. Recent economic reports from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics have shown inflation rates reaching levels not seen in decades. For example, the Consumer Price Index, CPI, has indicated year-over-year inflation rates significantly above the Federal Reserve's long-term target, directly impacting the cost of everyday goods and services for American households. This isn't just abstract economic theory. It's a tangible increase in your grocery bills, gas prices, and housing costs, as these official statistics confirm. Financial experts consistently stress the critical need to factor inflation into financial planning, especially in the current environment. According to a recent survey by a leading financial planning firm, a significant percentage of Americans are concerned about inflation's impact on their retirement savings. The survey highlighted that those who are not actively adjusting their investment strategies to account for inflation risk seeing a substantial reduction in their real retirement income over time. This underscores the urgency for individuals, even beginners, to understand and act on inflation. Consider the anecdotal case of two individuals, both starting their investment journeys around the same time. Sarah, whom we mentioned before, proactively learned about inflation and incorporated inflation-protected assets into her portfolio. In contrast, John focused solely on nominal returns and kept his savings mostly in standard accounts and growth stocks without considering inflation hedges. As inflation rose unexpectedly, Sarah's portfolio, while not immune to market fluctuations, was relatively more resilient due to the inflation-linked components. John, on the other hand, saw the real value of his savings and some investments significantly eroded as inflation outpaced his returns. These real-world examples and expert opinions reinforce the core message. Understanding and addressing inflation isn't optional. It's a fundamental aspect of sound personal finance, especially for beginners building their financial futures. Ignoring inflation is akin to sailing against a strong current without adjusting your sails. You might be working hard, but you're not making progress toward your destination. By equipping yourself with the knowledge and tools to navigate inflation, you're not just reacting to economic pressures, but proactively steering your financial course toward your goals. You might still be wondering, okay, I get that inflation is a thing, but does it really matter that much in my day-to-day life, especially as someone just starting to learn about finances? The short answer is a resounding yes. Think about it. Economists at places like JP Morgan are projecting that even moderate inflation can chip away significantly at your savings over just a few years. We're talking potentially losing thousands of dollars in purchasing power without even realizing it, simply because prices are inching up year after year. And maybe you're thinking, this all sounds complicated. Inflation, CPI, investment strategies. I can grasp as a beginner. It's understandable to feel that way, but the core concepts aren't as daunting as they might seem. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. At first, it seems wobbly and confusing, but with a bit of guidance and practice, it becomes second nature. Just like understanding that demand and supply affect prices, or that your savings account might not be keeping up with rising costs. These are fundamental ideas you can understand and use to your advantage. So what are the absolutely crucial takeaways for you right now? Firstly, don't ignore inflation. It's not some distant economic problem. It's directly affecting your money today. Secondly, even small steps matter. You don't need to become a Wall Street guru overnight. Start by tracking your spending, looking for ways to budget smarter, and exploring simple, inflation-aware savings and investment options. Experts at Vanguard often recommend diversification, spreading your investments across different types of assets, as a key way to build resilience against inflation over the long haul. Ultimately, managing inflation isn't about magically making prices go down. That's beyond anyone's control. It's about taking proactive steps to protect your financial well-being in an environment where prices are rising. It's about making informed decisions, staying adaptable, and taking control of what you can control: your savings, your spending, and your investment strategy. You're now equipped with the basic understanding and strategies to start doing just that. Let's move on to solidifying these steps and looking at the bigger picture of taking charge of your financial future. Let's recap the crucial points we've covered. Inflation is real. It's impacting your finances right now, and understanding it is no longer optional. It's essential. We've demystified what inflation is, explored its causes and effects, and armed you with practical strategies to navigate this economic reality. You now know that simply letting your savings sit in low-interest accounts is a losing game against rising prices. You're also aware that taking proactive steps, even as a beginner, can make a significant difference in preserving and growing your financial well-being. So what are your immediate next steps? Firstly, take a close look at your budget with an inflation-aware lens. Identify where rising prices are hitting you hardest and pinpoint areas where you can adjust your spending or find better deals. Secondly, start exploring basic investment options that can offer some protection against inflation. This could involve researching low-cost, diversified ETFs that include asset classes like stocks, real estate, or even considering inflation-protected bonds like TIPS as you grow more comfortable. Remember, even small, consistent steps in the right direction compound over time. The biggest benefit of applying these insights? It's regaining control. Inflation can feel overwhelming and make you feel powerless, but knowledge is power. By understanding how inflation works and implementing proactive strategies, you're taking charge of your financial future instead of being passively swept along by economic currents. You are equipping yourself to make informed decisions, protect your hard-earned money, and continue progressing towards your financial goals, even in an inflationary environment. Don't let this knowledge sit idle. The most important step is action. Start today. Review your budget, explore those investment options, and most importantly, keep learning. Personal finance is a journey, and understanding inflation is a critical milestone on that path, especially right now. What are your biggest takeaways from this guide? What actions are you planning to take? Share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. We're here to support you on your financial journey. And if you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and join our community for more empowering financial insights. As you step forward from here, remember this crucial point. Understanding inflation is not merely about abstract numbers and complex economics theories. It's fundamentally about personal empowerment. It's about proactively taking back control in a world where rapidly rising prices can often feel like an unstoppable and overwhelming force, diminishing your hard-earned money. You've now unlocked a truly fundamental piece of the complex financial puzzle. And with this valuable knowledge firmly in hand, you're significantly better equipped to confidently navigate the ever-shifting economic landscape and diligently build a more secure and stable financial future for yourself and your loved ones. Don't ever underestimate the immense power of informed and decisive action. Even seemingly small adjustments to your daily financial habits, thoughtfully guided by a solid understanding of inflation's impact, can steadily accumulate into remarkably significant positive outcomes and long-term financial well-being over time. Think of your entire financial journey as a grand voyage across a vast ocean. Inflation is accurately like the unpredictable currents and ever-changing winds. Sometimes they gently push you favorably along your chosen course, and other times they strongly push directly against you, creating headwinds. Simply ignoring these powerful forces means you are essentially at the unpredictable mercy of the natural elements. But deeply understanding them, diligently learning to accurately read the subtle signs, and skillfully adjusting your sales and navigation strategies. That's precisely how you effectively navigate these complex waters and ultimately reach your desired destination, regardless of the prevailing economic climate surrounding you. This guide serves as just the very beginning of your essential navigation tools. Keep actively exploring further, keep consistently learning new insights, and keep diligently applying these invaluable insights to your personal finance and investment decisions moving forward. The economic seas may be perpetually ever-changing and uncertain, but with readily accessible knowledge and well-planned proactive strategies, you can confidently steer your ship directly towards your long-term financial goals. The lifelong journey of sustained financial well-being is indeed a continuous one, and you have just definitively taken a truly significant stride forward in the right direction. Keep going persistently, keep growing your understanding, and keep actively building your strong financial future, always armed with the enduring power of deep understanding and proactive planning.